All right. I am, scared of Darcy getting mad at me for running over. So we are going to start right on time. My name is Jamie Kurland. I am the chair of the ethnomusicology working group here at AMIS, as well as the Society for Ethnomusicology liaison. And it's really my pleasure to be back here with all of you and to present, to introduce our current panel. Today's papers represent ways in which instruments represent culture. In today's session, we will hear stories of migration and diaspora. We'll hear stories of assimilation and commerce, and hear stories about the ways in which instruments fit into museums and how they contribute to revivals. Our first paper will be presented by Dr. Lisa Beebe, who is Assistant Professor of Musicology and Ethnomusicology at Cosumnes River College in Sacramento, California. Please welcome Lisa.
Ooh, cool. Hi, everybody. Move that up a little bit. Okay. Cool. Thanks. Tall people problems. Hi, everyone. As Jamie said, my name is Lisa Beebe, and today in this short presentation, I'd like to share with you the work of Vancouver-based Vietnamese-Canadian musician Bic Hoang. While Ms. Bic is an innovative musician and multi-instrumentalist, today I'll be sharing her work for the fretted danbo monochord. Along with discussing the construction of the instrument and playing techniques, I'll also analyze the ways in which Ms. Bic has utilized the danbo to express her Vietnamese cultural identity. In particular today, I'll focus on one of her compositions, which is titled River of Memories. It's a danbo concerto. This presentation is based on a series of interviews I conducted with Ms. Bic remotely via Skype in 2016, and more casual conversations we had during danbo lessons, she being obviously the teacher and me the student, and those were also conducted via Skype. This was the pre-Zoom days from 2017 through 2019. But before diving in to discuss Ms. Bic's work, it might be useful to first start with some background information about the danbo. Cool. So the danbo is a monochord zither from Vietnam. Musicians may also refer to the instrument as the da quyen or the da quyen cam, which means one-string instrument. Historically, the danbo was an acoustic monochord consisting of a silk string stretched over a split bamboo tube. Since the acoustic danbo was commonly performed by blind musicians, or some, the acoustic danbo is also known as the danbo some. In the mid-20th century, musicians adapted the danbo for electronic amplification using a magnetic pickup. The electric danbo consists of one steel string, approximately a 14 gauge, stretched over a wooden body, which is around 106 centimeters or 42 inches in length, give or take. On the slide, I've included an early 20th century French postcard, which is the image on the left, featuring a musician playing the danbo some. In contrast, the photograph on the right features the modern danbo, and here it's being performed by Vietnamese-American musician Van An Vanessa Vo during a 2014 episode of National Public Radio's Tiny Desk concert, which totally recommend you check out. You'll be in for a real treat. So the acoustic and the electric danbo differ in both materials and size. The acoustic danbo is typically much larger, with a longer and wider resonating body made of bamboo, while the modern danbo is smaller and made of hardwood and synthetic materials. However, the overall construction and playing techniques of these two versions of the instrument are relatively similar. On both versions of the danbo, a single string connects on one end to a stem which protrudes from the body of the instrument. The stem connects to the base of the instrument and runs through a small wooden cylinder, which was traditionally made out of a gourd, and bao means gourd. To play the danbo, a musician plucks the string with a wooden plectrum to produce harmonics at 6 nodes along the string. So you kind of touch the string with the crook of your pinky and pluck and let go at the same time to produce that harmonic. Plucking the string along these 6 points, the danbo musician moves the stem to the left and to the right to change tension of the string and thus change pitch. And moving the stem also allows for ornamentation and vibrato. These days, the acoustic danbo is relatively rare, with the electric version of the instrument I've just described being the most common. And I'd love to talk more with you about the danbo some, but for now, today I'm going to focus on one version of the electric monochord, which is the fretted danbo. Okay, so in the late 1980s, Vietnamese musician Ho Kak Chi constructed a danbo with a set of 5 movable frets placed on the right end of the danbo. According to Bic Hoang, these frets are made of wood with a copper bridge. Playing a fretted danbo, a musician has the option to either tap on the frets or to hold the string against the frets while bowing the instrument with the left hand. A few years after inventing the fretted danbo, Mr. Chi and his wife, musician and composer Bic Hoang, emigrated to Canada and settled in Vancouver in 1992. Although both musicians were well established and respected in Vietnam, essentially they had to start over again when they moved to Canada. So they weren't performing for a few years. But they returned to public performance in 1996 as part of the nonprofit Art Starts in Schools, which is a Canadian organization bringing multicultural programming into public schools. So with Art Start, Ms. Bic and Mr. Chi performed as a duo called Kak Chi Bamboo Music. And they presented a variety of educational programs featuring Vietnamese folk songs performed on the fretted danbo and various bamboo instruments from Vietnam, specifically bamboo instruments of minority groups. During a 2016 interview, Ms. Bic shared with me her thoughts on the instrumentation of Kak Chi Bamboo Music, and I have the quote on the slide, but I'll go ahead and read it. So in Vietnamese conservatories, she said, they teach so many instruments that are originally from China. And Chinese culture in Canada is quite strong because the Chinese have migrated to Canada for over 100 years. Mr. Chi and I thought that we would like to have our work be more unique. So we focused on the instruments that are mostly found only in Vietnam, like the danbo, ni, which is a chordophone of highland minority groups, the kalang put, which is a bamboo xylophone of the Bainar cultural group. Those instruments are all made of bamboo, she said, so we focused more on bamboo. As Mic Bic said, several Vietnamese instruments share organological features with Chinese instruments. So for example, the Vietnamese Dan Chan 16-string zither is similar to the guzheng. The Dan Ni spiked fiddle in Vietnam is very similar to the Chinese erhu. However, the danbo is distinct in both construction and playing style from other East and Southeast Asian instruments. As I observed during my fieldwork in Vietnam, the danbo is a musical and visual symbol of national identity, specifically of the Q cultural majority in Vietnam. In the global Vietnamese diaspora, or Vietnamese communities abroad, the danbo often serves as a symbol of cultural differentiation for Vietnamese musicians, distinguishing their work from that of other diaspora communities. So with that context in mind, let's watch a short clip from a Kak Chi Bamboo music performance, which was shared on the duo's website in 2011. In this clip, Mr. Chi will demonstrate the danbo for the audience with a song which he introduces as Vietnamese dance. And it's actually a folk melody called Trong Com, or rice drum. And Ms. Bic is accompanying Mr. Chi here on the tambourine.
Yeah, and this time can change the pitches. And now the piece is called Vietnamese dance.
cut it off there for time, but you can find this video if you look up Kakchi bamboo music on YouTube. So along with serving as a nice introduction to the overall sound of the danbo, this clip also provides us some insight into the aesthetic choices of Kakchi bamboo music. As you may have noticed in this video, Mr. Chi plays a danbo with a bamboo log body. The use of bamboo does not sonically alter the timbre of an electric danbo fitted with a magnetic pickup. Instead, the use of a bamboo log here is a predominantly aesthetic choice that allows the danbo monochord, which is an instrument distinct to Vietnam, to visually match with the other instruments comprising a Kakchi bamboo music performance. It's interesting to consider how bamboo might serve as a visual symbol of Vietnamese culture in the diaspora, and I'll come back to this in a second. Okay, so what's going on with Kakchi bamboo music today? Today, Ms. Bic and Mr. Chi have mostly moved on from the Kakchi bamboo music educational programs. While Mr. Chi is enjoying a well-deserved retirement, Ms. Bic continues to concertize and compose new music for the danbo monochord. In particular, she strives to bring more attention to the fretted danbo, the musician invented by her husband, Mr. Chi, by performing her own original compositions for the instrument. Okay. So one ensemble with which Ms. Bic collaborates is the Vancouver Intercultural Orchestra, or VICO is the acronym. Founded in 2001, VICO is an ever-changing ensemble of both Western and non-Western instruments, performing new works specifically by Canadian composers. In 2016, VICO performed Bic Hoang's original composition, River of Memories, as part of a concert titled Bamboo, Vietnamese and Intercultural Fusions. The concert also included Vietnamese folk songs and new works for the Dan Chan Vietnamese zither and the trung, which is a traditional bamboo xylophone used by the Drai and Bainar people of Vietnam's Central Highlands. In the concert, these last two instruments, the Dan Chan and the trung, were both performed by Vanan Vanessa Vo from the Tiny Desk concert, so she comes back here. Okay, so a little bit more about River of Memories. So River of Memories is a loosely programmatic work which consists of three main sections, each contrasting in tempo and overall mood. While composing River of Memories, Ms. Bic drew on a series of images in her mind surrounding water. During the first section of the piece, these inspirational images ranged from broad feelings, like the sensation of waking up on a calm morning, to very specific personal memories for her, specifically from her own childhood, like playing in the river with friends. And in the score for River of Memories, which I have two clips from the conductor's score on this slide, Ms. Bic included an image of fishing nets at sunrise, and also an image of a cyclone, which I'll get to in a second. So in contrast to the playful opening section of River of Memories, the second section is inspired by devastating typhoons of the Pacific. Here, Ms. Bic reflects on the images she saw on television and on the internet of flooding in central Vietnam in mid-October 2016, caused by Typhoon Sarika. Okay, so now let's listen. So in the following video clip, we will hear the second and the third sections of River of Memories. We'll pick up with the beginning of the second section, which is the tension of the mounting storm, its violent eruption, and the destruction left in the storm's aftermath. We'll continue through to the third section, which serves as a message of hope by returning back to the playful themes of the opening section. And this is, again, from VICO's YouTube channel. This is from the 2016 concert, Bamboo, Vietnamese, and Intercultural Fusions. pretty cool. So as we just heard, River of Memories highlights various techniques available on the fretted danbo, each of which results in a unique expressive timbral effect, particularly during the storm section. So for example, at the beginning of the second section, depicting the rising tension of the storm, Ms. Bic uses 3 different playing techniques. First, she lightly stops the danbo string with her right hand immediately after she plucks to produce each harmonic, which results in a muted staccato effect. She also taps the danbo string while moving the stem to change pitch, which to me sounds like raindrops, but that's just my personal observation. And she also plucks the open string of the danbo while moving the stem back and forth, which results in a much wider vibrato. To depict the eruption and violence of the storm, Ms. Bic sets her plectrum down and bows the danbo string with a viola bow. She actually said she experimented with lots of different bows and found that the viola bow works best for bowing the danbo. So there you have it. She changes pitch first by sliding her finger along the danbo frets while bowing the instrument with her left hand, and then next by just moving the stem back and forth. While tapping the string with the wood of the viola bow and quickly moving the stem back and forth, she also creates a wide, buzzing vibrato. And I forgot to move the slide, but it's what I just said, so. Okay. All right, so a few remarks in closing. First, for Bic Hoang, performance on the fretted danbo has been a strategic career choice as well as an aesthetic exploration. After emigrating to Canada, the fretted danbo provided Ms. Bic and Kak Chi Bamboo Music an opportunity to create a distinctly Vietnamese voice in the diaspora, specifically in Vancouver. In composing River of Memories, she uses the danbo to express her own past and present visions of Vietnam, while simultaneously celebrating the cultural diversity of Vancouver through performances with VICO. Interestingly, VICO's Bamboo Vietnamese and Intercultural Fusions concert, which included River of Memories, highlighted music for the danbo and danchan zither, both instruments that are no longer constructed out of bamboo. References to bamboo during VICO's concert call to mind a Vietnam of the past, while at the same time, new works such as River of Memories represent new avenues for these instruments. Finally, it is worthy of note that such significant innovations for the danbo monochord are coming out of the diaspora, right here in Canada, and then making waves in Vietnam. For example, since performing River of Memories in Vancouver, Ms. Bic has performed the piece in Vietnam, rearranged for an ensemble of Vietnamese traditional instruments. This short paper has only begun to scratch the surface of this topic, and in the future I look forward to examining the impact of Ms. Bic's compositions on musical life in Vietnam, as well as discussing her many other works for the fretted danbo. And the best place to hear more of her music is on her Facebook page, so check it out. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to share this presentation with you today, my first presentation since 2019. Very thankful to be able to talk about an instrument that I'm passionate about and to discuss a composer that I very much admire. I look forward to your questions and to your feedback, especially connections to other instruments, musicians, or scholarship that I might consider. Thank you so much for listening.
Zoomorphic?
The question was the danbo originally zoomorphic? And I don't know what that word means.
Oh, well, was it intended to represent an animal in some way?
Yeah. So not to necessarily resemble an animal, but it's often connected with the water buffalo, because traditionally the stem of the instrument would have been made from water buffalo horn. Today it's made of wood or most often plastic. It's interesting too because there's also that gourd that's part of the stem. And with the acoustic danbo, that served a functional purpose. Today it's for decoration.
Oh, very interesting presentation. Thank you. But going back to the bamboo, the emphasis on bamboo. Bamboo is, of course, one of the 8 traditional categories of Chinese instruments.
Right.
Is there a similar connection? I don't know much about Vietnamese music. Is there a similar categorization in Vietnamese that's significant?
So that's a great question. Right, so in Chinese organology, there's this buy-in system of, bamboo, stone, wood, I'm forgetting some of the others. As far as I know, there's not a similar classification system in Vietnam, or I haven't come across it. That being said, there is so much overlap between the cultures that there is most likely some type of influence, but no one that I've spoken with in Vietnam or in the diaspora has mentioned it to me. And that could be because now there sort of is this push to culturally differentiate Vietnamese music history from Chinese music history. It's a complex political issue too. Thanks.
You said there's an acoustic version and an electric version. Does the electric version still use a silk string with some sort of transducer system, or is it a metal string with a magnetic pickup? Or?
Yeah, so the electric danbo uses a seal string. There are specific danbo strings, but most often danbo musicians use electric guitar strings. And one of my teachers told me that's because they're less likely to rust than the danbo strings. So practicalities.
I really enjoyed your paper, and maybe being in this space with so much electronic music history. Visually, I couldn't stop thinking about how the danbo kind of looked like a theremin. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if it's been adopted in popular music by other musicians and what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, that's a question I get all the time. I was like, oh, it's like a theremin. And I mean, they produce sound in very different ways, but that visually, it's so reminiscent having this stem. As far as I know, the danbo hasn't been used as widely in popular music. There are especially some indie musicians that are using it. I think part of the reason is that the danbo just isn't quite as well known as the theremin. I did happen to come across, and this was just like a few days ago, someone who created a MIDI patch with danbo sounds, like they sampled it and you can buy the patch. So that's kind of cool. I wonder if something will come out of it. But yeah, it's out there. If there are any pop or electronic musicians in the house, check it out.
Hi. From the technical point of view, what is that amplifies the sound? Is it like a guitar pickup? Is it a specific pickup? Is it a piezoelectric? Do you know?
Yeah, so in a sort of PDF document that Bic Hoang wrote for composers interested in writing for the danbo, she describes it as being similar to a single coil electric guitar pickup. And so my understanding is that it's closer to that than to the second pickup you said, the piezo one. Mm-hmm. But I should say that I have yet to actually see the fretted danbo in person or to meet Bic Hoang in person. Part of that had to just do with the practicalities of being a graduate student and not having money to fly to Vancouver. Then the pandemic started, so I'm really hoping now that I can travel, I can actually go and meet her in person and see this instrument and take more pictures to answer that question more exactly in the future.
I'll say, keep in mind that AMIS offers research grants for projects like that, so.
Oh. You don't say.
Both performers had such beautiful gestures with their left hand on the stem. And so when you were having your lessons, did they teach you specific motions and gestures as well as the mechanics of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so sensitive, is the interesting thing when you play the danbo, is that moving it even just the tiniest bit will change the pitch. And it's really difficult to create a delicate vibrato. And Bic Hoang makes it look so easy. In my lessons, I barely scratched the surface. So much of it was spent on intonation and actually controlling the vibrato. I got to some beautiful gestures, but nothing quite like that. That's like intermediate advanced, and I'm still maybe in beginner intermediate. So it's harder than it looks. Cool, thanks. Thank you.